with. Hi, Trevor. I'm Joe, and lovely to have you here. And the purpose of this catch up is I've asked Trevor to do some mentoring for me about lost ways and wisdom, and I guess what it is to be a living woman and a living man, really, in this world today, and the things that we've lost. So I came across Trevor on Rachel Vaughan's Love on the Ley Lines and was so impressed that I've actually been inspired to start doing a podcast again. So thanks, Trevor.
No, you're welcome. Thanks. Thanks. Thanks for having me here.
You're welcome. So I guess we had a chat a week or so ago for a couple of hours, and I was blown away by your knowledge. And I guess I just was wanting to evolve my knowledge and anyone that's listening about, I guess, the wisdom that you hold in regard to our Indigenous people here, and on all sorts of, I guess, different subjects. We did sort of connect through the ley lines, and I suppose one of the things that you said to me that really sparked my interest, and maybe we could start there, was how the archangels were personified by the Anunnaki from the archangels. Is that something you can elaborate on?
Yeah, I'll put it this way. That's a narrative. And whether someone subscribes to that narrative or not is business to them.
Yeah.
But the people that put it together, and I don't recall, I got so much stuff. I'm not that typical scientist who's going to put all of the references at the bottom of the paper, because I live in a tent in the bush. I lost the job because of the COVID, and as a principal, anyway, tour guide out in West Arnhem, taking people in country. But anyway, the narrative looks at etymology of words, and it looks at progressive literature. So people who study literature, how was that word used back when, and then before, this type of thing. So you get meaning changes, and you get colloquially accepted meaning changes, and then they can change the things in the dictionary.
Yep.
The dictionary is a lexicon, whatever they refer to it as. It's a whole lot of words. But they don't have a phrase book, so they're unable to change phrases, and phrases stay in the colloquial usage until such a time that the egregore accepts a different usage. So one of the things that I'm actually involved in is your folks, they're probably aware of the spell casting, and the English language is the most pervasive source of a form of magic on the planet, because it's so flexible and so malleable. Well, there are two reasons. At any rate, they have set up a lot of meanings to words, and people think they're saying something, and they're actually, if you look at the cymatics and the vibrations that come out of those sounds, the vibrations are wrong. So, that's like an altar. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in a church, they have an altar, and they use that to alter the consciousness, because everything is the consciousness, the vibration. Form. Thought causes form. So having said that, when you have a look at the sacred geometry, everything is vibration. And original people, right? Sometimes well, there was a paradigm, with early colonialist explorers and everything, that they couldn't count. But what they didn't realize is that one word could mean another thing in a syntax. And they could count, no problems. They did tests, cognitive tests, and it just blew them away. And they didn't know how to work that out until sometime during, I think it was the Second World War, where the first paper comes and the guy sort of realizes what was going on there. And it just blew them away, because anyway, what they were very aware of is that all vibrations have a quality and that quality actually precedes the quantity. So they were focused on the quality.
Right.
Okay. The
Yeah.
quality of one is expressive. The quality of two is receptive. The quality of three is the product, progeny, or child that comes with the one and two coming together. And that's why the trilogy is so entrenched in all theologies and magic and everything else, because it's powerful. Everything comes out of that in the third dimension. That's why it's called the third dimension. And there's a whole lot of stuff you can go into to show how that works. But what these numerical systems, apart from the original peoples, right? Well, there could be other native cultures around the world that did the same, but I'm talking about modern numeric systems, modern by within the last 7,500 years. They dismissed the zero as being worth nothing. So with the original people, the zero is worth everything because it is the feminine receptive shape. And within natural law, one of the two primary laws, as far as I'm concerned, one is mentalism and the other is care. And care comes from the feminine generative principle. Okay, so that's what the zero represents. It's all the power. You put it after one, makes it 10 times bigger. Put it before one, makes it 10 times smaller. But the numerical system these days, doesn't consider that because they're just bean counting numerals. You know what I mean? Anyway, so they're ignoring the quality. Yeah.
It's really interesting.
So
Gone.
So with the sacred geometry, you have all these angles. Okay, and they're referred to as degrees. So some of the folks on in your audience now would be aware of the term 33-degree Freemason.
Yeah.
Because they're talking about an angle.
Yeah.
And people think, oh, it's the latitude and whatever. Well, it can be as well, but they're talking about the angle. So when you look at the angle, and if you are scribing that around a circle, the shape you get is an arc.
I'm just looking it up.
That arc of angle will give you an archetype energy to that particular vibration. Now, vibration, energy is there for everyone to use. The difference is whether it's being used with love or being inappropriately used, in other words, abused with malice.
Yeah.
Okay. So what happens is they take these arc angles, they personify them because they knew, even before Tavistock Institute, right? They knew that humans respond to other humans before they respond to anything else. So they've taken these angles and they personified them. They know what the archetype energy bound up in that angle is. What it is, it's data, and data causes information, information. Okay, what causes something to come into form? So that there is inherent information within each angle that give you a propensity for a certain outcome. But they personified these, give them names, and then you have the archangels. Now, the original people system never personified any of this. If you go around Australia and you see Biami, that's not a personification of an archetype energy. That's what in modern language they refer to as sky hero. In other words, it's an extraterrestrial, so someone from off planet. Yeah. Now, the thing is this: people say, "Oh, but I meditated and I saw." People say, "Oh, but I died and I came back, and when I was not here, I saw." And I go, "Okay." The memory field, I'll put it this way: someone a mate came over one day on a bush block over 30 years ago, where I was living then, and he asked me, what did I think of this past life stuff? And it obviously had a reasoning for him. Sorry, I'm just trying to get that light going there. Oh, the sun's going down. I'm in a container, folks. I live in a tent, and this container is the office and the kitchen.
Yeah.
And the sun's going down. Gosh, where was I?
Yeah, you had
Distracted myself.
the bloke came round that had
Yeah,
the
okay. And he
yeah.
said, and he asked, what did I think of this past life stuff? And I looked at him and I said, oh gosh, I got no idea. Then pretty much 5 sec less than that, I said, oh, and I stooped down, pick up a stick, and I drew on the ground. And I'm like that. I say, I no one, it's a brand new question. I had no thought put to anything like that before. Someone asked me, my mind just goes, and all these cogs go, okay. So I drew this thing on the ground, and I drew this shape, and it's a sea anemone. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You appreciate, you know what a sea anemone is?
Yes,
Because if
yes,
I say anemone, some people think of a flower. Yeah. So a sea anemone, it's a creature with all the tentacles and coming
yeah,
out of a body. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, and I said, okay, well, here's a sea anemone. There's you at the end there. You are a sensory tip. And all the experiences that you have and all the information, the data, goes down the tentacle back into the core, the body. And then you transfer data to another neighbor tip and all the rest of it. In essence, all of this is what we're talking about here is communication, and it's using data. And I said, if you got the past life stuff, if you go back down that tentacle, you get into the core, then you got all the data there. So you could work out if you were here in a past life or not. But I'm not saying that you got to agree with that premise in the first place. But I'm just saying, well, that's the way I think about it. Is that if it was there, you should be able to find it because it's in the memory field.
Mm, mm. I agree.
And
Yeah.
then, I had an issue at one stage with some on YouTube. They did this thing, with the past life regression, and you see this person and they're they're coming out with something, and then they're told that they got to own it to process it. And I'm thinking, well, hang on, what if they tuned into a different channel that had nothing to do with them?
Mm, I agree. Yeah.
And what brought me to that was, I think from memory, it was the First World War, and they didn't even have the terminology then, but post-traumatic stress disorder. But they had these guys walking around in institutions after the war, basically just shell-shocked.
Yeah.
And this guy, and he starts spouting all this stuff about Napoleon Bonaparte, and the doctor investigates. And this guy was a peasant farmer before the war, no education. How did he know all this stuff? It was very accurate. Okay. So one, you could say, okay, yeah, that he's going back to a past life. The really amazing thing about this is that over time, he becomes aware of another patient who's doing the same thing. And so between French doctors and German doctors, I think it was about 5 guys doing exactly the same thing. So that's the point. You have a hypothesis for, does the soul fragment, and how many times can it fragment in one epoch, or current time?
Mhm.
And or are they going down into that core and all just tuning into the same thing?
Yeah. Well, I tend to think like
So
Trevor too, that there are so many different possibilities of what people are experiencing when they're having these near death or regressions, and
yeah,
could
yeah,
be parallels. Are we in a simulation? Is it past life, future life? It's
yeah,
there's lots of different possibilities and belief systems.
yeah. So just so I can finish, to get back to your original question about the archangels, that was a story to get me to this point.
Yeah, I
Sorry,
know.
because
I'm sure we're going to get there.
anyway, so no, so what happens here is that you would be familiar with the concept of the egregore.
Can
Yeah.
you
And so,
explain it for me?
well, a social egregore is everybody agrees that that's the right thing, because everybody agrees, and no one knows who put it up in the first place. But it's a socially accepted thing,
Yeah.
and you respond, within life to that. And then you have a personal egregore, and then you have an egregore for a country or even for a continent, and you take all the different egregores and put them all together, and you've got the conscious genome, as I put it. Okay, so you have a physical genome, the DNA, and the conscious genome. Now, because it's there in the memory field, anyone can tap into it. And the point I'm making, what I've got to here with the archangels, because I said if someone has a meditation or someone died and they say it exists, well, it does exist in the conscious realm because it's formed within the conscious realm. It may only ever be relegated to the conscious realm if you are empowered with enough. I'm just going to use the word magic, but if you have enough mental control to do the focus work and bring something from the conscious realm into the physical realm, you could get them to manifest in the physical realm. So that's theoretically possible. I'm not saying people have or have not done that. I'm just saying within this premise that's theoretically possible. The thing is, though, that I've seen on YouTube where someone dies, they meet an entity, and they come back and it says there's proof they exist. And I look at that and I go, well, you have seen a symbol that is held up in the egregore that you grew up in. Because if you go to another culture, they die and they see a different entity because that entity is within the egregore of the culture that they grew up in. And that's not to be dismissive of the entities, but it's also, and the issue of faith is not to be dismissed, but there's always a caution, be very careful what you are investing faith in. Okay. So the blackfellow system is not looking externally for saviorship or fellowship or anything like that. It goes within. It's you, empowered to you. Yeah. So that's why their social psychology systems heavily focused on developing appropriate self-control. The outcomes give you self-governance, self-efficacy, self-realization, self-determination, self-agency, all of these things in the appropriate context of looking after self, because you need to be looking after self so you can contribute appropriately to the group. And the group, so sovereignty within unity, and for a unified group to be psychologically and physiologically healthy, then each member has to be regarding age stage, of course, for maturity level, they have to be psychologically and physiologically healthy. And you don't really get one before the other, but they knew this scenario. So within their social psychology system, that's the focus, is for each individual to be contributing appropriately to the whole. And that system is holarchy. There's no inappropriate, rigid pyramid control construct.
Wow.
Okay. So there's no pyramid hierarchy. In certain contexts, for academic terms, you could start discussing certain things as being hierarchical in nature, but they're not pyramid hierarchies. And the system they have is holarchy, which is each individual learning how to generate power within self from core to be able to contribute to the group. Now, at the end of the day, you're going to get people that fall outside of the safety net, so to speak, but they're brought up pretty quickly, and there's harsh punishments for breaking law. So, and the LAW is based on natural law. So, if you break law and you face a harsh punishment, you're not likely to be doing it again. They can't see that they had wars at all, which describe ongoing conflict. They have really good conflict resolution stuff. They did have battles. People did get killed. They did have things like murder. There's all the humbug that all human business gets exposed to. But they had a really good system of harsh punishment to stop, or arrest that inappropriate behaviour, and everybody gets to see it. When you're in a really psychic society, you know what everyone's done anyway. Anyway, so I'll let you get to the next question. Well, unless you got more on that.
I've got, after listening to that, like, if if any of the, I guess, let's go back maybe, well, we can talk about now or in the past, if there were near-death experiences within the tribe, what sort of stories would come back from Indigenous that would maybe pass over and come back again? What would they see? What was the stories that come back? Like you were talking about how so like I've had a near-death experience when I was 2, and when I passed over, I saw greys and they sent me back. And I was very wary of actually sharing that story for many years until I read David Icke's book, where he talked about how the greys come in and pretend to be whatever the belief system is, and they put a front on so that you get trapped back into the reincarnation cycle. Whereas when I was 2, I didn't have any preconceived ideas of religion, so I saw straight through to the greys. So I'm wondering if pre, white settlement or after, if the Indigenous had near-death experiences, what were the stories they brought back? What was their belief system?
Well, I couldn't tell you what stories they brought back because
Are
I've
there any
not heard
told
any,
anywhere that you know
and I
about?
wasn't there. And I'm getting there. But in terms of the belief system, it's not a belief system; it's a knowledge system. They're totally different things. So
Mm,
they had a working knowledge of multi-dimensional reality.
yeah,
You was it you that I was discussing the levitation and translocation the other night, or was it someone else
I don't think it was me.
with the evolution? Okay. Sorry, I'm chatting to so many
I
people. I
know you
was
are. You've
yeah,
gone viral.
so so and even today there are a few of the old the elders left that have the skills that were more prevalent in past times. Not everybody gets to the same level in a lifetime to um, learn certain things. Sorry, I had the phone on in case you were texting me before. I just put it on silent.
Sorry.
um, uh, Now, so the thing is that they were aware of the multi-dimensional reality, so to speak,
Yep.
and so there's a broad spectrum of entities that aren't on this planet, or some may even live underground, that are in the third dimension, and there's a broad spectrum of entities that come from fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh dimension at least that I'm aware of. Okay, and these are knowledge systems because they got the knowledge through experience, and it's when you got people more than one person having the same experience, there's correlation there, and it's not someone just making something up. And the other thing is with a very psychic society, why I mentioned these elders that could translocate and everything. I mean, there's now a guy, right, and he rings up mob, right, in Victoria, and he goes, oh, blah blah, and he tells this thing that just happened, and they go, how'd you know that? And he says, I was just there.
Mm.
He's in Newcastle, and they're down in Gippsland, and this has happened more than once. Okay,
Yep.
so at any rate, the things that the consciousness can do. Um, so in the question there was the
Was about the knowledge
past life
people
experiences, and
don't
I have a
experience.
feling that you got to because you had your personal thing there with the greys. It's important to you to attempt to rationalize it or work out what was happening or how it was going to influence you, and now even like when you're older. So um, I'm really unable to answer that. It's because it's experience to you. The best thing is to trust intuition to you. And if you feel that it was humbug, then it probably was. And if it feels that it was harmonic, beneficial, then then that's okay. If it was neither nor, well, then that's not humbug either. So,
It
because
wasn't
the real
humbug.
thing is yeah, so the real thing is to be able to decipher humbug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I leave myself very open to all possibilities because I feel like at some point we're kind of in the end game, and who knows, my belief or my knowledge that I've gained is only as good as what I've got up to this point. And as I learn, it keeps evolving and changing. As you said, people have these belief systems and near-death experience, and they'll come back and say, I saw Jesus, or I saw Buddha, or, angels, whatever. And I was wondering if when Indigenous pass over and come back, do they report seeing things? I know you said you don't know, but that was more about what I was trying to get to. Is there a
Mm.
common theme as to what they might see when they, is it ancestors or, I wasn't sure if you knew of any stories to share.
Yeah. Well, I don't, and I'm being speculative here. You take a society that's living in the bush, they don't have a safety net system where they can do triage and everything else and do all the stuff to rescue someone who's going
Yeah,
to be
I get
dying.
that too.
If you're going to be dying, if you're going to be dying, you're going to be dying. This would be a very rare scenario where someone was in that um, uh, scope of things to pass away, then come back. It wouldn't be impossible, but I
Yeah,
think the probability would
yeah,
be extremely low. However, their knowledge of the other dimension is more through meditative practices.
yeah,
And then also, like this fellow now, he astral travels consciously, so it's not in sleep. He's awake
yeah,
and he does it. Um, and so that means that the body stays there, and the consciousness goes to where he wants it to go. Yeah?
yeah.
Another mob who can translocate, they actually take the body with them. That's another story.
Yeah, that's a whole
But
nother
anyway,
story.
eh?
I've actually had a friend who was out on country, and he had some elders. He was around a campfire, and these elders came in like just out of nowhere around the campfire. He was there with other elders, and then they just disappeared. They had the ability to come into form and then disappear. And this guy wouldn't make this up. Like, he's a really straight guy, and he was gobsmacked, like that these elders had the ability to just disappear and reform again, way
Yeah.
out in the middle of the desert. So, yeah, I totally believe it's possible.
Well, I know it is, but anyway, sorry, I was just um, the amazing this amazing thing that I don't know whether I should mention the names because they might not want me to, but anyway, two people that I'm aware that you are aware of, surname starting with Strong.
Oh yeah, I know them. Yeah, they're the Strongs. They'll be fine. Yeah.
Yeah. So they were in Kangaroo Island with Kano, and they're at a campfire, and then Kano disappeared and reappeared several meters behind Wife to Him, and because Wife to Him was their communique, and everything to get to meet with him and everything was through the wife. They'd really only got to know the wife, didn't know much about Kano at all, and they just looked at the wife and said, "You didn't tell us he could do that," and her response was, "I didn't know." But you'd have to validate that story with the Strongs, but
Yeah,
that's how
yeah,
they told it to me.
yeah. They're pretty amazing, the
Mm.
Strongs. I've done a lot of podcasts in the past with them, so we've covered a lot of that, a lot of different territory
Yeah.
there. Um, yeah, so
He's passed now.
oh, he has, right, yeah.
Mm.
Um, there's so many different I guess angles and places we can go on this journey, Trevor. One of the other, we're just using the free Zoom at the moment because I haven't done podcast a while. There was one thing I wanted to ask when you talked about the power of the 33 degrees, and the frequency.
Mm.
What is your knowledge or understanding of what that power is in the the power of the 33 degrees? Why is it that the Freemasons choose to invert that or use that power number? What's in the frequency? Is it the trilogy? Is that what it comes down to?
Yep. A lot of the folks will be aware of Tesla's famous expression, you know, the 3, 6, and 9,
Yeah.
work out vibration and everything else. And I'm not sure the last, you know, when we connected last time, whether I covered the trilogy stuff with you there, but the you know, the trilogy is, you know, or that third vibration is the power to gives you the power to manifest in the third dimension, if you know the other things, you know, the focus, the determination, the incantation, the spell, whatever, if you know what you're doing, because these things can be used for good in a heart-based way, but what everyone's focus is on here, and rightfully so, is we're focusing on the humbug because we need to know that it's there, because we need to know how to shield cells to us from humbug. But the question is, what are they using there? And it really comes back, because you say you got 2 3s, and then this, and that's a 6, and the 6 is the material. So even in the Aboriginal system, there's extreme parallels with the Aboriginal system, the quality of vibrations to numerology. Slightly different in the LORE, how maybe the stories are told, but but when you sit down, you read numerology, you have look at the blackfellow ones, and you go, well, yeah, that's the same. You know, some are clearly the same, and others you got to spend time boiling it down. You go, yeah, no, they're talking about the same thing. So, and even with the flower of life stuff, the best I can work out is that between 5,000 and 7,000 years ago, so there's that appears to be a 2,000-year window where the flower of life was fully engraved on every continent except this one. And I've seen a video where the guy states that it's engraved on every continent. Well, I don't see anyone who's claiming to have found it or can prove that it's been found on this continent. Okay, so it's coming in within a 2,000-year window for all these different continents. When you have a look at the original people stuff, they got the rudiments of it in artwork between 8 and 25,000 years old. And I'm unable to tell you how old that artwork is, but I've studied original people's art in the backyard here since I was 16. So basically from 1976, because I did my art thesis to me in year 12 in sorry, 70. What date did I just say?
76.
Yeah, 76, yeah. And so I did it in year 11 as in 76, and then in 75, year 11. Then in 76 I did the thesis because I was in year 12. And we were doing theses in year 12 because the territory is the territory, and the government, federal government is, you know, we didn't have a state government then. Federal government used all hospitals and all the hospital system, all the medical system, and all the education system as trials for what they were looking to do in the rest of Australia. So, you know, we were fortunate we went through this stuff, because what we were doing is obviously not full on theses, but they're preparing us for when you're going to go to university, the types of things you're going to have to do. So thesis to me was the relationship between Aboriginal art and spirituality. So the point I'm getting to here is that I know a fair bit about Aboriginal art, not everything, no one knows everything, and I know the dating systems and how they do it, and all the different things that are considered when you're attempting to put a type of art, a style into a period. So one of the things is layering, painting over top, over top, over top. The only things you can paint over top of are the newspaper stories, because they change every day. What fish did you catch? How big it was? What you're eating? Okay, so that's diet. Okay. Law stories are never painted over because law never changes. Okay. So when we're looking at the diet, we look at what they're painting in different styles, and then we know when the sea level went up and the sea level went down, the diet's changed. So that's why with a certain style, we go, well, okay, that style was there from around 8,000 to 25,000 a year because they're painting a certain diet when the sea level was at a certain level.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So, so at any rate, I'm unable to say, it was painted on, 24 minutes past 12 on whatever day. But that window of 8,000 and older, and the flower, and they already got components of the flower and life, the basic rudiments there. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, very, very important. Those vibrations, and the others, well, they're still important, but they weren't focused on a lot. And at any rate, so I think we've started there with the 33 degree and what's the significance all from the trilogy. So original people, the trilogy. Now, I don't know. I'll just see if I can find a graphic here. I don't know how we're going for time either, but you just give me a cue.
I'm just organizing while you're informing everyone on this amazing knowledge. I've just increased the time, so we're fine.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to say was that before, when we've been on the free one, we never got booted, and we've gone, like half an hour over, and we're all talking really quickly,
Well,
thinking
that
that's
was
going to
the
cut down on
universal
us, and just
time
kept
because
going.
I was just told I
And that's
had
happened
like
a few times.
2 minutes left, so I've just upgraded it. So I've got
Yeah, no, yeah, that's right. You get that warning, but it doesn't actually turn. Well, it didn't for us
oh
on a
right.
few
Well,
occasions.
yeah, I wasn't going to take the
Um,
risk because you were on a good tangent there, and I really wanted to get that through without
yeah.
so.
At any rate, that might have been a while ago, and they might have changed all everything that they're doing. Then,
Oh yeah, who knows?
just
Um,
I'm just I'm just looking for a graphic that I can load in here. Sorry,
no, you're
because
right.
I got a certain amount of graphics loaded, but I wasn't really sure what questions you were going to ask specifically.
Well, it's our first sort of catch up, and one of the things
Yeah.
too, it'd be good to just let maybe the people know a bit about yourself, Trevor. Like,
Yeah, for sure. Look, I'm just going to flash up one quickly because I got one with both on the same thing,
yeah.
right? That one there, that is a triangle drawn two-dimensionally. It's actually got the thickness of the screen, so it is technically three-dimensional, but in terms of purposes, it's two-dimensional, right?
Yeah.
And so there's that one, and there's that one, right? And in the physiological world, the pyramid is a very powerful structure. You can generate energy. You probably know what Egyptian mob, and they're doing all sorts of stuff. You can focus energy, harness energy, do whatever. And so it's valuable in that context. But as a two-dimensional drawing, that triangle drawn on its base in scripture, so to speak, so which means illustration for words that they're saying, is in a psychological sense actually represents blocked energy. So you have a triangle sitting on the base, and if it's in a three dimension and it's a three-sided pyramid or a four-sided pyramid, you have a go and see how easy it is to tip over. Just get a bit of force and put it and see how easy it is to push over. You can actually turn over a cube easier than what you can a triangle.
Mm.
So what it's showing you there is that it's rigid. And in a psychological sense, it actually represents blocked energy. And blocked energy, energy's got to flow. So it represents dis-ease. Okay.
Mm.
So behind me there now is how the original people draw the triangle. If it's a free element, if it's within an artwork, it may circumstantially appear to be on its base as it's aligned within the flow of a particular artwork. It needs to be in a certain place, and then it might circumstantially end up being rendered on the base, but you're going to get more than one triangle in the flow anyway, and the others are not likely to be on the base. Okay, but if it's a freestanding, that's how it's drawn.
Wow.
And
Okay.
with a dot in the middle. the dot in the middle, and you spin it. So there's three generative, you see the symbol of the feminine generative principle, the receptive shape, the circle. You spin it in the middle, and you form that shape. So you got the core, and you got the outer ring. So that's a, that's as within, so without. That's the particle and the wave that the scientists are trying to work out which one come first. You see, they had it all, particle and the wave. You drop a pebble, look above, and you see the wave come out from where it's all in there. And anyway, they're spinning that triangle because the triangle needs to spin. The energy needs to move.
Wow.
And
So,
that's a meditation process.
so you've harnessed, or you've spent a lifetime. Maybe tell everybody a little bit about yourself, how you've come to, I guess.
Yeah. We should have done that at the
Or,
beginning, but you just started asking questions, so it'll
yeah,
come.
yeah. I sort of said, oh, maybe
All good.
I'll
Yeah,
I can chop this
it's all
away
good.
if I need to, but yeah, like
Okay.
yeah, just share, like, because we
Okay.
had quite a long chat, and I found out a lot about you. So yeah, I think it'd be interesting for people to know where you've been around the world too.
Okay. So, folks who are listening there in the audience, that when I first got on along with Joe, the first thing I wanted to establish was background to me, so that there was no misrepresentation, because I have been misrepresented by, not intentionally, but by presenters before when they given an introduction. Like, oh, I wish they didn't say that. It doesn't matter. I always got the opportunity to do a graceful correction as soon as I come on. Okay, so um, all right. So I'm considered an adoptee lineal original person. So not matrilineal, not mother's line, not patrilineal, not father's line, adoptee lineal. So original persons through adoption. Now, people go into work in remote areas and they get adopted by a mob there. And that's so because the kinship, everyone's fulfilling a role in the social group. They got to know what role you're going to be fulfilling. Even if you don't realize anything about what they're doing, they know what they're doing and how they're going to think about you. Okay. So you get adopted. That's just the expression. But the adoption I'm talking about is different in this regard. Father to me is from Indonesia, actually, a little island called Sabu. He was taken away in secrecy to Timor so that the Japanese wouldn't kill him because they were after him. Long story there. And anyway, so so he's gone from Dutch Indonesia to Portuguese Timor, and in both places he is a slave to the establishment. So he is seconded to the Portuguese cook at Kopang Airport and was treated very badly. And then after the war finished, the Australians came in. It was called Tim Force, and their duty was to get rid of all the ordnance and get any of the Japanese out of the jungle. And they had finished that role fairly quickly on the island of Timor, and so they were heading back to Darwin, the military base, with a convoy of 12 DC-3s. So I'm not sure how many days it took, but they were doing 2 flights a day. And these Australian soldiers looked after the kids. They played ball with them, took them for a ride in the Jeep and everything. And all Dad knew was, I'm not staying here. I'm going with those fellas. he knew the difference. You remember what's humbug and what's harmonic. So I'm going with those fellas. But one, he didn't speak English, and two, you soon get the picture. He's not allowed to. So there's the morning flights, and then the evening flight. They take off around sunset. Excuse me. And I think it takes, in those old DC-3s, I think it's like 2.5 hour flight from there to Darwin. And so they're all the pilots are in the mess having their dinner before they're going to do the takeoff. So he just went out there and tried to get in the doors. They were locked. So he saw the hole under the wheel well, under the engine, sorry, where the wheel goes up, and he climbed up in there. So that spinning wheels, the huge wheel spinning, hit him in the back. He didn't fall out on takeoff. The pilot said they did, because we met the pilot in 1979, and he said he was three, he was in the holding pattern because there's 12 of them. They don't all land at the same time. He was in the holding pattern to land for his turn to land. And when you're in the holding pattern, you'd put that wheels down because it slows the aircraft down. Like it's a slow aircraft anyway, but still, you got to go slower to land. But anyway, so they put the wheels down, going out over Darwin Harbour and out and over the land 3 times. And Dad hasn't fallen out because he was welded there to the heating cables and exhaust pipe, and he's getting cooked by the oil cooling pipes. And anyway, so they discover him in there and they take him to hospital because he was still alive, fortunately. And a young trainee Aboriginal nurse, who was an Aboriginal girl, she was 17 at the time, is Auntie Jane Christopherson, and she adopted Dad Blackfellow Way, as you would, because he was a suspected orphan. So she just adopted him Blackfellow Way. You got to look after someone. And it seems like it was her principal daily one of her principal daily tasks, looking after people and that. But Dad was someone that she interacted with a lot. She adopted him. Now, Auntie Jane is half sister to Big Bill Naji, Kakadu man, and so that's why I belong with Goonwinka Mob for over 16 years. I was working out there with Mob in business to them, tourism, and also ops manager for a while, and senior guide, and then also doing cruises and stuff as well out there. But anyway, then when Dad was out of hospital, he's an illegal immigrant to be deported, and everyone in Darwin said no way, even the administrator. So he lived with the administrator at Government House until the powers to be could work out how to break their own laws and get him to stay, because to keep Australia white policy. And the administrator took a posting to Egypt, and his sentiment was the incoming administrator should not be encumbered with the issue of looking after this boy. And so we need to get him in the community. And their sentiment was that he should be with people of the same skin color so that he fits in better. And all the Aboriginal mob wanted to adopt him, but they were not people. They were part of the flora and fauna. And so only Bertha Kabilo, Larrakia lady, she married an Englishman, or around about the same time. Maybe she was only just married, whatever. I forgot the detail there. But at any rate, now she's married to an Englishman and she's considered a person.
Wow.
So she, her and Norm Ballard applied for the adoption, and she's allowed to sign a formal Westminster document of adoption. So I belong with Larrakia mob and Goonwinka mob. Now, mother to me is Caucasian. She was the only white person I saw on a regular daily basis until I went to primary school. So Dad, very well loved. He always go for a walk down through the bush, and they got Bagot Reserve in Darwin. And like back then, it's not like the city is now. It was bush joint. Anyway, Bagot Reserve, all the mob from Isa to Alice to Broome were coming there for mission business. So there's no kids, only adults. Very few kids from the local mob, Larrakia mob, that might have been at the reserve, but all the mob that come in from Whoop Whoop, they're adults. So there's all these Aboriginal camps, because when they're locked up in the mission, not allowed out, but then they come to Darwin and it's freer. They can actually walk out without having a note or whatever. And so they had all these blackfellow camps from Bagot all the way to past where we lived at Seabreeze. So we used to walk through them, and that's where I just watched and learned and listened, and even when you didn't understand language or understand language, you get the vibration, you get tone and everything else. Is pretty. Anyway, so that was the sort of level of immersion that I had. People always ask, did you learn? Well, what languages you learn? There were too many languages there. You learned the words that they were commonly using, because for pragmatic reasons, they themselves are using common words, or words that they made common so that they could all converse with one another as well. And in primary school, the other Aboriginal kids there with us, original heritage mob, and us mob, if we were speaking language, we would get the cuts, because that was a period where they're still attempting to break language, So so what do you do then? You learn the swear words.
Mm.
Anyway, so apart from that, folks, there's so many, like in terms of the multi-dimensional reality stuff. I was working in the desert there in when I first left high school, working on a woodcutters camp with Aboriginal mob there. Then I left and walked back to Darwin. Took nearly 3 months, and because I got to take out about 2 weeks there when I wasn't actually walking. but but I had a series of visions, and they lasted up until the time 2 weeks before I was 21. I moved to Sydney to work in Sydney because I had a really good job in Darwin, and as a photographer and graphic artist for the Northern Territory Electricity Commission. And but being young, I wanted to do more, expand, learn more. So I went to Sydney, and that's when the vision stopped. But then when I was in Sydney, all the close associates, good friends that I made, I'd be saying to them over many, many years, this continued. Anybody that I thought might listen, because you don't talk if you think people aren't going to listen. Yeah, that's just blackfellow rule. So anyway, so I go, make sure you know where you want to be before the turn of the century. Get out of the big cities. Know who your neighbors are, because the way we travel is going to completely change, and there's going to be millions and millions of people leaving this planet at the same time. Now, I didn't know the causes. All I was seeing was the outcomes. There was 3 specific visions that I kept getting over a 3-year period. So when all this stuff happened with the it was after the turn of the century, but I'd already made the decision before the turn of the century. Know where you're going to be, know where you want to be, right? Because I got to take the advice I was given to others. Gosh, anyway, so I was up here, working in a job there. But then they told me you got to be jabbed or you can't do the job. I said stuff you, and I come here to this block which we'd already started to pay off a year prior. But at any rate, so uh, so at the turn of the century, I started doing the intuitive sensing workshops when I'm presenting on natural law. I've been sponsored for a 15-day presentation round in Vienna by the Korczak Society, which is a social psychology association. And I've been presenting to a group of retired Catholic priests, and some just left because they worked out it was bogus. In America, they all live in the same commune type thing. And so I've and that was on Zoom, but Vienna, they sponsored me to go there. And these are people that had met me on tour and asked if I could come, and I just say, well, you organise it. With America, it was a bit challenging, so I said, oh, well, I knew about Zoom, then I said I can go on Zoom, and I said, yeah, so we did a Zoom thing. But with Vienna, they wanted me to do all this stuff with all these different groups. They were magic. They looked after me. It's magic. And so the other thing is that I'm going to do an intuitive sensing breakdown as part of the Lay Love Down project, so that people, like some people already know the stuff. That's fine. The thing is that because I've been presenting this for so long, I think it's advantageous when something is presented in a different way, and you potentially get little clues to say that makes it easier for you to explain to someone else who's is still doubtful, because the diacratic mind cannot see the scientific explanation. So what I've been able to do is to put all together in pure scientific energetics to describe how things work, and so people actually get it. Or not, but most of them do, So the thing is here is knowledge transfer. So I've worked out how to transfer this knowledge into, like, it's quite deep, but for someone who's assisting others, you don't need to use the whole depth. You might just say, oh, that's really helpful because such and such was resistant to that aspect or whatever. So at any rate, that's I'm going to be doing a focus on that, on the Lay Love Down on the 10th of July. I think we're booked in.
Awesome.
And I'll only be able to present as much as I can present in the scheduled time frame. But any people, I'm still answering questions from mob I met, like 10, 15 years ago. They email or text, and people send me their dreams, because I use Robert Munro's system. If it was dream to me, because we don't use the word I don't, because it's
Mm.
not in language possessive. So if it was dream to me, and I just look at all the symbols, and I type back to them, and I give them a scenario, a story, and several times I've had a response pretty much exactly the same, but along the lines of, "Gosh, how did you know that was happening in life to me?"
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
going, I didn't. You did. It was your dream.
It's
It
your
was your
dream.
dream. It was a dream to you. All I did is I looked at the symbols and I thought, oh yeah, because a lot of people, little kids, they say it's a nightmare and that and whatever, but you just got to look at symbols objectively, and
100%.
and also the feelings you get within a
Mm.
dream is a very important part of that. I'll get people to write down what did they feel
What did it feel
within
like?
the dream, not afterwards. Not afterwards, like, well, that could help too, but within the dream itself, what sort of feelings were you having?
Mm.
But at any rate, so I don't know where I was going with that. The Yeah, it's just that, if you want to, ask questions, that's fine. I'm not always responding that quickly. I work on the block here, got a 20-acre block, going hard, attempting to set up a detox and Zen camping space, organic garden. When you're single-handed, I got all this stuff on the ground to build a shed. I got 6 by 6 meter up so that the tent doesn't get smashed down in the big storms anymore. Because first 2 wet seasons, I lost the tent 7 times.
Oh my
Uh,
God.
all this more, which is no humbug. In reality, you're still alive, but attempting to dry out all the
Yeah, yeah.
bedding and
That's a lot.
clothes and everything in the wet season when it's high humidity. It's like, oh no, I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
need this again. Anyway,
Yeah. I
you
get
seem to
it.
work out what the priorities are. Um, yeah. Anyway,
So
so that's probably a bit of an overview of where I come from and where I'm at now.
yeah, I appreciate that it's been a significant journey, and I know just from when I spoke to you how the depth of your knowledge. My husband's listening in the background, and he texted me, and he said, "Can you expand on the archangels versus archangels?" He didn't really feel like he got enough out of that, so he's wondering. So expand a little bit more on that. So I
The angles of arc give you a vibration, like the numbers that, like I gave the example,
the
33
33, yeah.
degrees. Why have they got degree? Because it's an angle. That's the language they're using to define an angle. An angle of what? It's an angle of arc. So the 33 has got an archetype vibration that can be used with the heart or can be abused without, like they're doing. Okay.
Mm.
But once they've got it, so that's the thing. Like I was on a thing with on a Zoom 4.5 hours with this lovely lady in Brussels. I don't know, 3 days ago, whatever. And she found all this stuff in the park, and I said, look, the symbols don't necessarily the symbols are not necessarily um, negative in themselves. They can be, but this is an example. You take a pentagram, all it is, it's 5 stars. It's telling you a lot, but you use it inverted, and then it's telling you a lot more. Okay. So it's not the symbol itself, it's how it's used.
Yeah.
But then there are certain symbols, like if it's drawn and the points are coming outside the circle, they're breaching the circle, well, that's telling you it's being used in a humbug way. Okay.
Mhm.
So the point is this: if you go on a ley line or on a vortex and you see people doing the wrong thing there, and if it is clearly a symbol that's doing wrong, you do whatever you got to stay safe. I'm going to cover all this stuff in the lay up down stuff. It's always you always got to protect self. Do not be complacent about working with the stuff in these areas. Anyway, um, so if there's something there and you find it and it's clear that they've been doing negative stuff, well, do what you're able to do there, it's the mind that does the work. Okay.
Yeah.
And then if you turn away from that and do stuff from the heart, generative stuff, then that's what you do, because you're going to be effective. In other words, if you think you may not be effective, attempting to override the symbol they've already charged with their intent, then don't bother. Where you are going to be effective is turn away from it and stay within power to you in the heart and make new stuff. Okay. So some people take on the challenge and some people say it's easy for this, and that's a personal decision, and it's that's also linked to the aspect of safety. Now, as I was saying it, I thought maybe I should discuss the business about the mind and the symbols.
Mm.
Did I do that quickly?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. So a lot of the folks here would know that smoke is used as a symbol by all cultures for different things, but often in religious and particularly when people pass. So smoke is a very strong symbol because it's a symbol of the third dimensional object being combusted, broken down, and it's still third dimensional object is smoke, but it's tiny particles, but it dissipates. That's a symbol of energy dissipating back into the universal scheme of things, and you're focusing intent on that. Now, when you develop really strong mind, you don't need the symbol of smoke, and you can achieve the same thing. I know, because I do it and I work with others that do it. So now I'm going to answer the question, why do all cultures use the smoke? Because they got the younger people there and they're still learning. They haven't developed the mind, the focus, the determination, and got it to that point yet. Okay, so the smoke is still being used, but the smoke can be effective if you got sage versus wormwood versus eucalyptus versus ironwood. It has a signature, a chemical signature, and that chemical signature will be aligned with what the intent is wanting to achieve, but it's the conscious intent which is doing most of the work. I would suggest probably 90% of the work. I could be wrong with the percent there, but we know that when we take the smoke away, we still get the same thing affected. For those of us that
so we through our intent, as we get more knowledgeable about how to so this is about keeping our fields clear and clean of any humbugs or any entities coming in, so we can. So you're saying they use the smoke for the young ones to keep them clear because they didn't have the knowledge to be able to do that themselves. Is that right? To clear out the fields, your own fields.
They're using the smoke, to clear, smudge, clear. It doesn't necessarily have to be other entities. It can be when someone passes, right? But the thing is that they're using it in a social group because not everyone in the social group has the mind developed yet to the stage where they don't need the smoke.
Yeah. And you don't know what's being brought into the group.
Yeah, well, that too. But potentially, I'll tell you one thing: always know where the dogs are.
All right.
Because negative entities easily piggyback on dogs. All right. If you close your eyes, turn away, you're missing data. You don't know where they are. Keep your eye on it. I think did I share a story with you about that?
No.
No, it must have been someone else.
Sorry. I know you're talking to a lot of people at the moment, so
no, that's I couldn't, because I'm sorry, Joe. I didn't remember all the stuff I covered with you, but I know it was a lot. But,
I know we talked about a lot.
Seemed to be.
What's your dog story? I know cats are great at clearing spirits.
No. What happens with?
I've lost you there.
Can you hear me?
Sorry, start again there, Trevor.
Yeah. So the dogs are a symbol of loyalty.
Yeah.
Just about every culture is going to recognize that element of archetype energy as a symbol. or one of the elements for the dog, loyalty. But the thing is with dogs is that nefarious entities can piggyback on them very easy.
Mm.
So if you know where the nefarious entities come in, and this is for people that are up to speed with fourth dimension humbug being forced back down into the third dimension because they got it wrong in the fifth dimension where the balance occurs. But anyway, that's another long story. So if you know where the dogs are and you're looking at the dog's behavior, then you know where the stuff is.
Mm. So so what would be an
You take
example?
your eyes
What's an example? Like you had a story there to share, like of an event with a dog.
off the dog and I'll just work out whether he's a good fella or a humbug fella.
Okay, so you're
and,
looking
and
at the dog.
if he's a humbug fella, if you're a humbug fella, just keep your eye on him. And if he's a good fella, excuse me, you can talk to him, pet him. I'll put it to this way. I'll give you another story. This is not with a dog, but it's going to talk about an aspect of body to you, which some of your folks may appreciate already, be aware of already. I'm on a bus. This guy gets on the bus and he's walking toward. I'm seated and he's walking towards me. And I was getting an environmental cue. I thought, no, something wrong. And I'm feeling him because I'm quite sentient. I just felt the total full on humbug. And then he goes to sit behind me. So I'm taking the hand and I'm putting it on the back of my neck because I don't actually want to get up and move somewhere, but I don't want to be influenced by the entities that are sitting within this guy because he's fueled with drugs and alcohol and his aura is shattered and his spirit's been overtaken. I don't want to get anything like that. So you know what the back of the neck? It's
Well,
a
there's an
psychic gate.
assemblage
It's
point
a
there.
psychic gate, and that's the easiest place for things to jump through.
Yeah.
So same with dogs. When you're looking at dogs, you just have a look at the head and neck area. The rest of the body language will tell you anyway. But uh, I look, people are free to do what they're free to do, and they make decisions what they may think is good at a certain time. But when I see people get tattoos over the psychic gate, I do get a little concerned because sometimes I see them. They are living a life where they think everything's okay, but the aura is telling me that
Mm.
no, I wouldn't say every time, but a lot of the time uh, they've been compromised.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think people really understand the power of the symbology when they put a tattoo on their skin, and especially in the places that they do.
Yeah.
And I don't have any tattoos because um,
Yeah.
I just know the power of those things on your skin. You know.
From young, I didn't have any attraction to tattoos. I mean, if I meet people now, it's not that I have an aversion to tattoos, but
Mm.
I never had an attraction to get
Yeah.
them for sale. And the other thing is, I've never worn jewelry,
Mm. Why is that?
because well, it's a other people are going to see you in a way that you don't see self. But when you wear certain things, you're actually wanting them to think something about you. I don't really want people to think anything about me, like just how you going, bro? How you going, sister? You know,
Yeah.
and the jewelry is not the, I don't want to, I'm not going to make a statement by wearing a piece of jewelry. I still wear clothes. I choose the colors I wear. The hair's cut the same, or the way that I choose to, because I don't go to a barber. I cut itself. I'm out here in the bush. I just got to go,
Why?
and you do the best you can. You know, um, uh, you have a persona, you have a personality, but I'm not. I don't know. Jewelry, it's just from little. I brought in a whole lot of things when I was little, and I just stuck with them because uh, they're in the core, and
Mm.
that's the thing. I think throughout life, I've been really fortunate that I've always been able to stay close to core, be distracted
Yeah.
by attractives, and not being attracted by distractors.
Mm. Yeah. Very, very pertinent. Uh,
Um, it, yeah, sorry, go on. Yeah,
no, no, that's interesting because yeah, like all of those. I actually love jewelry. um,
Oh, go
crystals
for it. I'm
and
not saying what I do
no,
means
I just say
anything to anybody else. It's me.
I
Yeah,
I have I've had a fascination with crystals my whole life. You know, I wear the citrine quite a lot, but you know, it was tucked down in my jumper, so it's not about having it. It's
yeah.
you know,
I appreciate that, and as I said, people have got to be in the groove, in the
yeah,
time and place, in life path to them, and they're just going to do what they're going to do.
yeah.
All I'm saying is I had
That's
no
you.
need to. I
That's
didn't
who you
have.
are.
Yeah, it's just it's not. It's not. There's no dogma in any of this. It's
Yeah,
you're free to be you.
yeah, exactly.
Um, yeah.
Another question my husband's asked is, well, when I was doing my interviews with Stephen and Evan Strong a few years ago, and I actually interviewed Richard, gosh, I can't think of Richard's last name now, but he wrote the book on Australia's first stone, Patterson, Richard Patterson. He wrote
Hmm.
the book on Australia's first Stonehenge, which was up near Byron Bay. Um, do you know anything about that? Is that in your repertoire?
I know a little bit, but not as much as the Strongs in terms of historical detail, what was done when, what information was set into the record of his story
Good story.
when. Okay,
Yep.
but in terms of the original people's theme, I'll share something here with you. I'm sure the Strongs won't mind me saying this. They, well, we went to I had a group of mob. We went to London and did a particular ceremony. And on the way back, we we asked, um, Stephen and Evan, can we drop in? Yeah, good. Stephen likes me for whatever reason, which is fine. That's just a statement. Okay. What I'm getting at here, if like Stephen knows if people aren't listening, he's not going to waste his time either, right? But there will also be some things that they won't share to certain people, I'm sure. Okay. He pulls out a map of this place. And I'm looking at it, and he's talking to the others, and I'm looking at it, and he's talking to the others, and I'm looking at it, and he's talking to it, and I'm looking and after a while, he says, like, do you get anything? And I'm going, well, that's why I'm looking at it. There is so much in there because I already knew Blackfellow Way about how they use vibrations and numerics of vibrations for quality and what was in the story. Not all of it, because there was a lot there, but it's story. When you write a story in English, you start reading at the left and you go to the right and you got a line under a line under a line, right? You start in an Asian language, or Chinese or Japanese, it's at the bottom and it goes up or to the left or
Yeah.
whatever it is, and it's different. Okay. But with Aboriginal mob doing this sort of stuff, you got to start here, then, and that tells you to go over there, and that tells you to go over there, and that tells you to go over there, and that tells you to go over there. And there was just so much in this stuff, and I'm just sitting there and I'm going, yeah, no, it's cool. I haven't got it all, but I've got a good picture of what was going down. And yeah, basically they knew a lot of stuff. There's some probably palladium in there. I couldn't really identify. Didn't really have a long enough, but there's definitely influence recorded in the stone arrangements there from
Mm.
off planet mob.
But
Excuse me.
okay,
What was in the stories is including visitations.
right.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't know who built it because I wasn't there, but I
Okay.
suspect that it was the original people.
Yeah.
All of the ways they use the symbols is Blackfellow Way.
Yeah. So when you say it was off-world mob, what's that relating to? Sorry, I'm just I
Well,
haven't followed that.
extraterrestrials,
Yeah, but so what
not not.
related to the Stonehenge in Australia? How's that? What's the connection there? I've lost that. Sorry.
I don't know. They're making statements within the stones arrangements.
Ah,
Okay,
right.
that there are stories within stone arrangements. That's what I'm saying. That's why I pointed out you read left to right or you read bottom to top or whatever the language is. But with Aboriginal stuff, either in painting or stone arrangements, you got to work out which symbol means what, and you'll work out where to start and which direction to go, and there'll be lines crossing all over the place. It's not a left to right reading. Okay. What I was getting at there, I'm sitting there absorbing all this, because as soon as I got one string, one syntax, I then go, oh, and then I follow another syntax, and then I go, oh, there's another syntax. Now, within those syntaxes, there was inclusion of extraterrestrial visitation.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
That was part of the story that's in there.
Yeah.
But the main thing that's in there is the natural law.
Right.
Because natural law never changes. LORE changes. They're the stories that are shaped with symbol and metaphor. They differ all around the planet. They differ all around Australia, because different mob, you live in saltwater country or desert country, and you got different things in the environment that you're using as the symbols. Okay, so they're not personifying anything like that, like the demigod system did. They use animals and other things like mountains or geographical features as elements in the story to convey a story. But the LORE will change because you're in a different environment as you move around. But inside the LORE, you are looking for the LAW, and that's natural law. And the key thing is that natural law never changes. Not like today, where they got all these rubbish laws left, right, and center. Most of them got nothing to do with well-being to you. They're about driving energy to the top of an inappropriately controlling rigid pyramid hierarchy.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Well, that was interesting. So
back to the question, the original question. Could I say anything about that? That's about all I could say about it, because I don't actually I cognize patterns and are able to recognize patterns, and it doesn't mean that I remember the detail of what was actually in there. The pattern tells me enough. Okay. Everybody has the capacity to track. You are all trackers. Today, you use your phone and your email and everything to track, to keep track. Okay. You are looking for anomalies. Hard pronouncing that word for me.
Anomalies.
Yeah, in the pattern. Okay, so it's the same when you're in a bush, but you're connected with nature. You are looking for patterns, and then where breaks in patterns. That's what tracking is. So people are still tracking today, but it's not a natural environment. You're tracking in a digital environment.
Yeah,
it's still tracking.
Yeah, very good.
So I love living in the bush, because I just go out in the morning and I know which rat ate that fruit, and which possum and which wallaby jumped the fence. Anyway.
So yeah, that's pretty specific. So you were very aware and in tune with all the inhabitants right around you.
I wouldn't say all, but I got a pretty good picture of the neighbours that all, family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Two tree goannas living up in the insulation since I put that 6x6 meter part of the shed up last year. They've made a home in there, and they come down and talk to me, and the only ones I chuff off are the taipans and the brown snakes, because I don't want them just I'm setting up a home right outside my tent.
I think we can be grateful that they're taking off, actually, the taipans and the browns.
Yeah, well, when I see them, I just do all the appropriate body language, but I got a peppermint spray, and I just make it myself.
Yeah.
And the research on the net, so I don't know whether anything's any good or not, but the thing is that you can research this. You read, 40 people's opinion on on one particular thing, and at the end of the day, there's only peppermint that keep coming up continually as actually works, and they give scientific reasons because it interferes with the Jacobson organ, which is how they sense chemicals with their tongue, because they got no ears. So
Yeah,
it's no
yeah,
good talking to them.
yeah, yeah.
You got to stamp on the ground so they can feel it, so they can feel the vibration, right? Anyway, so I got the peppermint spray, and it seems to work. All I do is I got the spray, but because I'm not wanting to harm them. I just don't want them to set up camp
Yeah, I agree.
at tent, right? So I just aim for the head, and it's just on the stream, and it's go, and they start to move off, just keep following, because the animal behaviorists say that snakes don't like being humbugged. So they'll get the message. You just give it. So I don't want to use a broom or a shovel or something where they might actually get hurt. I just spray the peppermint spray at the head,
Yeah,
towards the head, in the head area.
uh, I think there's lots of ways we can deal with nature. I've had my fair share of run-ins with snakes, and I'm not a killer of snakes either. But yeah, we all have our own way of doing stuff. But I hadn't heard of the peppermint, so that's a good tip.
Tucker Carlson was good with the
Oh
loving the
yeah.
animals.
I was gonna say, did you listen to Tucker Carlson about the guy that swept the snake
Ah,
out?
yeah, the wife chucked me a broom and I
Yeah, just swept it out. I know.
switched it away.
Yeah, I know. When you were talking about that, that's the first thing that came to mind, Tucker Carlson's story that he told.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's
I don't have a lot of time. I don't have a lot of time to watch a lot of stuff, but for some reason I watched that.
yeah. No, I was gonna say it was interesting that he was like he'd just killed the snake, and I'm like, oh, I don't like killing anything, especially nature. But it was nice that he saw, I guess, the essence of many Australians in our love and care for our environment and our animals. So that was really
Yeah,
a nice thing
yeah.
to see. And to also
Mm.
confront some of these oh my God, how can you explain it? Just these journalists that ask the most stupidest questions. You just think, what rock did they climb out under, And for him to really put them in their place, it was so refreshing to actually, whether he's controlled opposition or whatever, who knows any of this, all I know is when I listened to him, he really spoke a lot of truth. So it was a refreshing experience to see a journalist up there saying those things.
Well, a lot of those journalists are primed anyway. They're already bought, but they don't. Like some of them know it outright, and some of them just think they're doing it because the boss asked them to, and don't really fully appreciate the repercussions of what's
Yeah,
happening.
yeah.
And they're just blindly following orders. But anyway,
Well, we've extinguished a good hour and a half, Trevor. So I might
Yep.
love you and leave you, and
Yeah, no worries.
we've got plenty of things to talk about. Like I've made another list of different things that you've said, and lots of other things to.
Yeah, if I get those prior, I can organise some slides because I got heaps of slides that back
Yeah,
like when people see a graphic behind me and I'm explaining something that's either geometric or something in Aboriginal art or you know, I've got a lot of graphics I've generated already. So I can sort of preload by theme, if you know what I mean. If I
yeah,
sort
and
of
and,
got
and
an
I'll
idea.
ask if
Doesn't
people
mean I'm going to have the
if people out
sorry.
there have questions that they want to ask you, just to
Yeah.
type them in, because like this is the sort of first time that I've had a chance to kind of really get to know you. We had a couple of hours phone call, but
Yeah.
I really wanted to try to just, build a bit of a vibe and feel out all the different areas, and get ideas about, some of the future things we can talk about. So I guess I am excited to, in the next one, maybe talk about simulation theory. That could be a good one.
Well, I don't know anything about simulation theory. I think
I
they just copy someone else, don't they?
don't know. But we'll leave that till maybe next time. It's a common subject. So, from an Indigenous, you know, perspective, it'd be interesting to.
Well, I'll do. Well, yeah, because I'll point out I don't represent any original peoples group or original people per se. All I can do is represent findings to me
Yeah,
that I've come across in life path to me.
yeah,
Now, while a lot of that is, dots that are from original people's perspectives, I can only represent findings to me. And but what I am careful is like if I consider something to be speculation, I'll say that.
yeah,
Or something is what's the other word? Oh, I forgot what I was going to say now. But yeah, you know what I mean. But if I know something is a fact and it's true, doesn't matter which angle you look at it from.
yeah.
Sometimes later we find what we think are facts to be not fully factual. Yeah.
Mm,
Um, but and so we modify appropriately, and when so that's what it's a knowledge system. Um,
fair enough.
at any rate, so yeah, I mean, sure, if you send me a list, it doesn't matter if it doesn't cover everything, but it'll just give me an idea of what sort of slides if I think the conversation is going to go in a certain way. And because it's quicker if they're already preloaded in Zoom rather than me having to go into the folder
Yeah,
outside of Zoom.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
And
will, now
because
that
I
we've,
just because I just yeah,
as I say, now that we've had our
yeah,
first chat, I'll be more primed and ready to uh, pick your brains on particular
yeah.
subject.
If I'm able to answer, I will. If I don't know, I don't know.
Well, that's it. Well, let you. We'll chat in between anyway. But yeah, thank you so much
Yeah.
for just all the different
No,
things.
you're welcome, and no, and thank you. Because I think I mentioned to you before, one of the responsibilities, well, one of the natural laws is law of responsibility, and one of the responsibility we have is that if people are prepared to listen, we've got to share.
Yeah, yeah. And that was one of the things that struck me so much. I haven't um done any podcasts for quite some time. I had my channel taken down many years ago, and many things happened through COVID for our family as well, which has taken some time to get through. And I haven't been inspired to even really talk to anyone other than when I saw you on Rachel's. I love
Yeah,
the ley lines podcast when you were asking,
yeah.
when you started talking, and I'm like, now this is someone that I find interesting. So thank you for accepting my invitation and coming on and sharing. And I look forward to doing a
No,
lot more.
you're welcome.
Yeah,
No,
there's
you're welcome.
a lot of
Yeah,
wisdom there, and yeah, look forward to
yeah. I'm
sharing it.
very happy to share as long as people know I don't know everything. And just because I say something, don't believe it.
No, this is the thing. We've got to make up our
Well,
own.
do research to you because, as I said, I might say something that's only partially factual, and that the problem with that is that it could be misleading if somebody joined the dots in the wrong direction,
Yeah,
and that wouldn't have been the intent because sometimes you don't fill out all the sentences or the conversation changes direction and you hadn't finished covering some points and it's all like that. So but no, no malice intended. Love to you all. Be
thanks.
in the heart, stay in the heart. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, I've appreciated your time, and I look forward to catching up again soon and
Yeah, yeah,
having a bit clearer direction. But yeah, it was nice to just have a bit of
yeah.
a free chat.
No, it's cool.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, well,
All right, thanks,
I'll,
Jojo.
yeah, I'll just stop that recording. Bye, everybody.
Yep.
If you've got any questions to ask Trevor, just put them in the comments below.
Newid wrth i'r tymor droi